Hey everyone, it's Kevin here with Reviews About Anything, and today we have my Acer Trition 700. I just replaced the thermal compound on it with this right here. So the Arctic Cooling MX4. It comes in a tube like this. So I open this up. It's a relatively easy process. You just unscrew the screws on the bottom. The keyboard tech comes off. There's a heat shield that sits underneath the where your trackpad sits. You take that heat shield off, and then there's 3 screws that undo on each the processor, so the Intel CPU, and the GPU, the NVIDIA GPU. So you undo those, and then there's 2 more screws on the fans on the right and left one, so the total 4 screws there. And then there is some tape that is over top of the heat sinks on the sides, and there are your lines for your antenna and then another one for your display that run over top of the heat sinks for some reason. Not really sure why they decided to do it that way. The wires for the display seems fine. It's wrapped in some type of fabric or something and some shielding to seem like it's probably okay to go over the heatsink on the right side. But on the left side, it's just the bare wires. So not like actually bare. They have a jacket on them, but it's a thin, relatively thin jacket. It's a thin gauge, so it's a bit odd to just have those over top of the heatsink like that. But I'm guessing Acer knows what they're doing. Obviously, they've properly rated those wires for the temperature that those heat sinks can get up to. But I just thought it was an interesting choice, obviously. They didn't show any melting spots or any weirdness on there. If you guys want to see me open this up and show you guys, how you go about changing out a thermal compound, I can do that. I already changed this one out, like I said. Also, while I was in there, took a can of air and sprayed everything out. But I can at least, take everything apart, show you where to get to, and then you guys can do it yourselves. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comment section down below. But the reason I did that is this laptop is, around 2 years old now, and the thermal started to get a bit out of hand, in my opinion. So when running Cinebench, it got up to 91 degrees Celsius, and then up to 95 by the time I did the 5th run. So at the end of the first run, it got up to 91 degrees Celsius, and my score was 1,483. And then after that, my next 4 were 1,477 at 9. And then, like I said, by the time the 5th run came around, I got up to 95C on the CPU. And then that's revision 20 of Cinebench. And then on Heaven, which was 4.0, during the benchmark, my best score was 2,261 with an average of 89.8 FPS, and my worst score was 2,241 with a average of 88.8 FPS, and I did 5 runs of that as well. After the first run, my GPU was at 74 degrees Celsius, and by the time my last run came around, it was at 78 degrees Celsius. The worst I achieved on lows was 25.8, and the best I achieved on highs was 125.6. So I have all that written down here. Obviously I didn't video me running each test 5 times. That'd be quite a long video and quite a boring video, honestly. But here real quick, what we're going to do is I'm going to do one of each test for you guys to show you the difference between before and after. I'm going to do the same testing. So I've had the laptop on. It's been sitting for a few minutes. And then I have the Acer Predator Sense software open. Then what I'm going to do is set the fans to max. I'm going to go to monitoring, have that open, and then we will do Cinebench first. So here's Cinebench, and then give it a second. CPU's down to 47 degrees Celsius, roughly. I'm in my apartment. I don't know what the temperature is in here right now. My guess is probably around that. Not quite that, obviously, but probably around 25 C in here or so. So let's get our first test underway. So this is Cinebench R20. Like I said, this is the 20th release. This is a free piece of software. You can get this on the Microsoft Store or even from Maxon's website. They're the ones who make this. So the test here is of, it looks like a picture of someone's living room area, and they have a dining table in the back near a window. So essentially what this does is it pegs your CPU at max, so your CPU is essentially rendering this completely by itself, and your GPU has very little to no input at all in this. So this really just tests how your CPU does. Like I said before, my score was 1,483 for the high, 1,477 for the low, and if you look over here on the side, we have a few different scores over there. To put into context, a i7 7700K, so a desktop grade i7, 4-core 8 threads, from the same generation as when this one came out. This is the i7 7700HQ. We had for that one a score of 2,420. So that's the desktop variant, and then once this finishes, we'll obviously see what the mobile variant did. They do have a mobile variant on here, so they have the i7 6700HQ, and that got a score of 1,647. Now, these do not tell you what computers they were in, or I should say what laptops they were in, or desktops, obviously, because it leads to a huge difference in performance. Obviously, something like this laptop here is a thin and light laptop, less than 3/4 inch thick, and we're talking about a thin fan system, thin radiator system, or heat sinks, I should say, and thin heat pipes and your CPU and GPU blocks and everything like that. Everything's made real thin to accommodate for this chassis, where the 6700HQ could have been in some giant custom, or somewhat custom laptop, like a giant Alienware, or even some of the Acers that are, some of them are 2 inches thick, or bigger even, some of them. So that also plays into this as well. This is a thin and light laptop, for moving around with and everything, which is what I wanted it for. So we'll see how it performs against its competition here in just a few seconds. It's almost done rendering this image here. As you can see, like I said, it's just someone's living room / dining area, I guess, with their window and a CD or rack or something like that over there. Okay, so the score that I got was 1,518. So when comparing that to another run that I did was 1,536, so a couple point difference there. And when comparing that obviously to the other processors there, it's a bit off obviously from the i7 6700HQ, and it's a good bit off from the desktop variant obviously. But overall, not horrible. I did get a decent jump in performance obviously from 1,477 area to the 1,520 to 30 range. So a decent jump in performance there. But more importantly, let's go look at the temperatures. So we had a max of 71 degrees Celsius during the test, where the max during the first test when I ran Cinebench before, like I said, I have right here, which is 91 degrees Celsius. So I consider that a great improvement. That is, we're talking about 20 degrees Celsius difference in temperature. Like I said, I'm running the test exactly the same. Predator Sense open, the benchmark open, and the fan set to 100% max speed. And I did clean out the fans, and the fans are running basically 5,000 RPM each, give or take a bit, obviously, GPU versus CPU. That's what they were running before. There's a little bit of dust on them. I dust my laptop relatively often. I don't open up and dust it, but through the sides and everything, I dust it out. So the fans weren't bogged down with dust or anything. So then if we go to close this one out, and we'll go to Heaven now. So here's Heaven. The settings I have are custom, and then I have the ultra quality preset and the extreme tessellation, and I had instant aliasing off. I don't know why that was checked there. I do not have full screen checked, and then the resolution is to system, which with this is just 1080p. So let's open this one up, and then we will run this one through as well to see the difference in performance. Like I said, I had a 2,261 was my best performance on this test, with my best low being 29.2, my best high being 125.6, and my best average being 89.8. And after one run, my GPU was at 74 degrees. So let's check Predator Sense real quick before we start this test. We're sitting at 46 degrees, and obviously we're maxing out our GPU here. So let's begin this test real quick. Yet again, this Unigine Heaven benchmark, this is the 4.0, the basic edition with DirectX 11, is completely free. It has all the information up here in the corner. So it tells you, this is a GTX 1080 Max-Q design. It tells you the speed that's running at. So my graphics card's running at 1,708 megahertz right now. The memory is running at 5,005 megahertz, and we're currently sitting at 50 degrees Celsius. And we are down here in the bottom. We're at we're at the 5th scene now, and we're sitting at about an average of 80 right now and climbing FPS. So we'll see how this performs, obviously, when this test finished. But like I said, this is a free test, so you guys can download this yourself. Same thing with the Cinebench. You can download them yourselves and see how your computer performs. I like doing it every once in a while just to see how everything is doing. Like I said, my computer seemed to run a bit hot and also to stutter a bit at times playing some different games. So I wanted to see if they would make a big difference between having the thermal paste and changing out and not changing out. Thermal paste is going to vary a little bit. You guys can go with what you want. I chose the MX4 because I've used it in the past. I've had really good results with it on my desktop. So I just wanted to use that again. It was also easily and readily available at my local tech store, so that also helps as well. I know the Thermal Grizzly, I believe, is one of the newcomers. They're supposed to have some really good stuff. Not super easily available for me right now. I could have ordered it, but I'm not really sure how that stuff works with laptops. I know this MX4 is supposed to be non-conductive and everything else, so I just wanted to go with something that I knew that's stable, and a lot of people recommend this stuff as well. So I just wanted to go with something I'm familiar with. So here we're coming up on the 14th scene. Here's what we're at, going into 15th. And we are sitting at, it looks like about 59, 60 degrees Celsius. Like I said, my computer, this laptop before, during the first run, was at 74 degrees Celsius. So this is the important part to me, is the decrease in temperature. The performance is not going to be probably a huge difference. I keep my laptop elevated. I keep the fans usually running at full tilt when doing benchmarks and things like that. Granted, I did not overclock the GPU in this, which you can in the PredatorSense software. There is faster in turbo, I believe. We can look at that in a minute once this test finishes up. So that would probably help this. But I'm just running it stock so you guys can see what this is. And that's how I did the test before as well. I just had the PredatorSense on and just ran the test like normal. So we'll see how this plays out, obviously. I just turned on my computer, so normally I make sure everything's turned off in the background and everything. I didn't do that this time, which might add some variance into this test, but we shall see how it performs, obviously. So it looks like right now, going into the 24th scene that we're at, we have about an 89.1, 89.3 is climbing a bit, FPS. So we're basically at the same FPS. I wasn't expecting a huge difference. I wasn't seeing much. I wasn't experiencing any thermal throttling or issues with my GPU. So there we go. We're at 2,262, where on my other one was 2,261. So obviously not a huge difference in performance there. Basically the same FPS and everything. So, but the thing for me that I'm more concerned about is temperatures, like I said. So with this new thermal compound, we hit a max of 62 degrees Celsius, and that's right after coming from doing the Cinebench, where before I had some time in between to let them rest. Obviously they share heat pipes and everything, so that's pretty impressive to have a essentially 12 degrees Celsius difference on the GPU and then a 20 degrees difference on the CPU. So in my opinion, this is well worth it. The thermal paste, I think, ranges from 10 to 15 bucks you can find it for. Isopropyl alcohol is pretty cheap, and then a can of air. So you're talking about maybe 20 bucks all in, worst case scenario, and you can reduce the temperatures on your computer potentially, by 20 degrees C on the CPU and 12 degrees C on your GPU. That, in my opinion, is phenomenal. Well worth it. So if you guys want to do this, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Be careful. There's a lot of different steps. There's you have to unplug the battery and make sure you don't forget screws or misplace things. So if you're experienced with doing this, I recommend it. If not, leave it alone. You're not going to gain a bunch of performance, obviously, but the temperatures is more of what I was worried about, because I was experiencing some thermal throttling during gaming and things like that. So if you guys are having that same issue, I would recommend doing this, or having someone else do it for you if you trust them, or maybe if you have a computer store in town, that will do for you as well. You have to remember, these manufacturers essentially use the cheapest stuff they can at the time. Whoever is going to give them the cheapest solution is what they go with. So, they try to use something good, but at the same time, when they're able to save an X amount of, pennies or whatever it can be, sometimes more, say if they save 10 cents on each laptop, that's a tremendous amount when you're shipping, thousands and thousands of units. So they're kind of just going for whatever they can get their hands on, the cheapest, quote that they get from whatever company. So yeah, this is how the laptop's doing so far. I know I read through some comments. Someone said that they had the hinge break around 2 years. My hinge is still strong. So we'll come out here a little bit. You guys can look at the hinge here. Still good, no cracks, no anything. This is a metal top. You know, we're talking metal bottom. Obviously, there's some plastic here on the caps and this frame here, but everything else, this is all metal. The bottom is metal, the top's metal. I haven't had any issues with any of this cracking or anything. Laptop's been doing great, like I said, besides a bit of the temperature issue, but I think I've solved that with this thermal paste. So if you've had this laptop for 2+ years now, and if you look into your Predator Sense while you're playing games and stuff, and you see you're hitting 90 degrees Celsius when playing games or doing other tasks that you do, it might be time to get that thermal paste changed. Mine was pretty dry. The spread was good from the factory, but it was pretty dry, like I said. So that's something you guys can look into. If you guys have any questions, or like I said, if you guys want me to make a video about actually opening this up and showing you what to do, I can. Leave that in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, it really helps out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.